Hey friends, real quick before I start this episode, I just want to give a shout out to Angela and Danielle, who are the organizers of Book Drop MKE, who I had on the pod a few Fridays ago. I actually went to the event last Friday, and one of the things I love about this new iteration of the podcast is when I say the name, when I say what I'm doing, people come at me with their events. So I just want to shout out the Book Drop MKE, which was really cool. Got to hear some really neat poetry by local artists. There was even a typewriter poet there, so I got to see some of his work. Very, very cool. It was a snowy night, but people came out for it. And 3 other events I learned about that I just want to share really quickly if you're local. I met Seth Copeland, who co-founded Tabby Poe Poetry, which is a poetry series and open mic every third Sunday of the month from 3 to 4:30 down at County Clare Irish Pub. So if that is something of interest to you, Tabby Poe Poetry, I'll put the link in the show notes. As well, I also heard about an event that happens on Thursday nights, I think at 10 o'clock. Now, I don't have the specific details on this one because it was just told to me as an anecdote, but on Thursday nights, Nessendorma has a secret word writing challenge. So you come in 10 o'clock, or if you're there at 10 o'clock, maybe after dinner, you get a secret word. You get given the word on the night of. You have an hour to write whatever that secret word inspires in you. You hand it to the bartender. The bartender reads them, judges them, and then somehow they get published, and I don't know where or how. If you have details on this, or if you have been, please let me know. Get in touch. Let's talk, because I would love to hear more about this idea for a gathering. What a creative thing to do. I wish that I was awake at 10 o'clock on Thursday nights. I am usually asleep by then, but who knows? Maybe one of these Thursdays I'll give it a go. And the last thing I want to share is that I learned that UWM will be hosting, as part of their Distinguished Lecture Series, Angela Davis on February 17th from 7 to 8:30. So get your tickets before they're gone to hear scholar, activist, writer, justice warrior, Angela Davis over at UWM. Okay, those are all local events. Again, I'm trying to make this podcast applicable to all the folks, but I just had to share those things for those who might be local in Milwaukee. All right, on to the episode. Hey, welcome back to Gather, Connect, Create. I'm your host, Megan Schultz, and this is the podcast where week after week, I am hoping to drop tiny nuggets of inspiration or new ideas or new perspectives on how we can create more meaningful relationships with the people around us, whether it's people we know and love, or whether it's acquaintances or even strangers who might soon become friends. Today on the show, a special guest. Hey, welcome back. Thank you. If you're still with me, I hope you're enjoying these tinier, bite-sized episodes. The interviews used to be, if you're following me over from Cream City Dreams, they were about an hour. I am trying to get it down to a half an hour for these interviews so that you can still listen while you do the laundry or go for a walk or your morning commute. So thank you for sticking around. Today on the show, I am excited to welcome a friend of mine, a new friend of mine, Nora Oaks. Nora is a community folk herbalist. She is a birth worker, a mother of 2 beautiful boys, and half of the folk hip-hop band Never Deadbeat Poets, who are incredible, by the way. She and her partner have a beautiful sound, and I happen to know, because we talked about this before we started recording, that they are spending the winter working on their material, working on an album. So when that comes out, I will be sure to let you know about that because, oh my gosh, their music is hauntingly beautiful. So I am really excited to have Nora on the show because Nora has started a monthly gathering of women, a monthly women's circle. And I've been to a few of them. I haven't been able to make all of them, but the few that I have been to have just been so nourishing and so beautiful and so different at each one. And I wanted to just give Nora the chance to tell us how and why she started these, and perhaps most helpfully for our listeners, how this kind of gathering is replicable. How could we do this in our own communities if this is something that we wanted to do on the regular? So let us jump right into the conversation. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here to join me on one of the first few episodes of the new iteration of the podcast with guests.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And I really am excited about having you here because the whole point of this podcast is to talk about how do we bring people together. And you have been creating these beautiful spaces for women to gather, to be creative with each other, to connect. So you are speaking my language, lady. And I want to talk about these circles. So I wonder, as a sort of way to get into this, if you could take us back to the idea for these. Where did it come from? Why did you
Mm,
decide to start them? Was there something missing a need that you were trying to fill?
totally. Yeah. I felt very alone, and I was trying to fill the void of community with one person, my beloved partner, who confessed to me, he's not a village and he's not even one woman. And I had needs that he could not fill. I had women friends who some were mothers and some were not. And when I would speak to this need, they would reflect that need back to me. They would say, "Oh, yes, like I would love to sit with other women. I would love to sing with other women. I would love to cry with you. I would love to do my chores with you. I would love to take walks with our children together." All these things really we can't quite put a name to it, but we know we need each other. And I in these conversations would just hear that over and over again, this great need. And it was some months of this before I realized that no one else was doing it for me and my community. We were
Mm,
all wanting it and dreaming of it, and it was kind of this vague, vision. But I grew tired of waiting for someone else to make it
mm,
happen.
mm-hmm.
Waiting for this this dream leader, this wise woman, like this elder, whoever it was, waiting and waiting. And I realized, well, shit, maybe I should just do it. And I've had some doubts about myself as a facilitator in that time, because I'm not an elder and I don't have tons of life experience, but I do feel comfortable in casting that loop. That's kind of the motif I keep coming back to, is like I have cast this circle out for
Mm,
women to join. And when we circle up, we're so powerful. It's such a powerful form,
yes.
to come together and to create in and to hold each other in. So I feel very comfortable in my ability to cast a loop and see who shows up and see who's drawn in. And I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, totally. I mean, it seems like something that, obviously women have done for ages and ages, gathering together in circles, but it also at the same time seems like something we've fallen away from in our modern times? So it's like you're going back
right.
to our roots, really, as
Trying
women.
to, yeah. I mean, yeah, our cities and even small towns are set up in these boxes and lines where you're separate and you're isolated and you're in your little unit. But it's difficult. It's difficult to access that form of the circle in all these grid lines. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to break out of like the routes that you take, literally the routes that you take and the routes that you take in your mind. These very linear paths, you have to kind of branch out. And I always, even in the moments when I'm not doing circle, some months I couldn't lead circle, couldn't get there. And I would just kind of envision like my heart as a center point, and sending that circle outward and like feeling who you touch, imagining it go past the square lines, like just imagining the circle radiate outward, like my energetic field going outward, the toroidal field of the earth going outward,
Mm,
and seeing who you draw in. So it's definitely like, I do think it's something humans used to do all the time. And
mm-hmm.
and the cities serve a purpose, and it's a very efficient system, in ways, but we did miss out on something vital that
Mm,
I feel like part of my work as a woman, as a mother, as a sister to many was to recast those loops and keep them strong and superimpose them on the grid. You know, we don't have to, I don't know if it's realistic to get rid of the way things
mm,
are.
mm.
That's a lot of infrastructure to tear down, physically and metaphorically, but they can coexist, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you call it sister mother when
Yeah,
you
the
send out,
circles.
yeah, the circles are sister mother circles, which
Absolutely.
in a way is inviting all of us in, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether we're sisters or mothers. And you say the a monthly meeting to soothe the soul, which I love.
Yeah.
Every time I get one of your emails, I just want to take a nice deep inhale and exhale. And yes, it is very soothing. So I wonder if you can describe what you envisioned when you started in terms of what the circles would look like and
Mm,
maybe what they have evolved into or that evolution.
sure. I was definitely inspired by some of the red tent gatherings that happen worldwide. And I can't think of the names of people who facilitate them. There's a few groups worldwide that do these red tents, which is a concept I read about in a work of historical fiction,
Mm,
you know, about literally a red tent or a tent where women would go to bleed together and possibly even to give birth in and take care of each other and sort of doula each other. And there's been a modern revival of that idea. So I was inspired by that. And some of the groups that I see, you know, online, they do a lot of singing, a lot of grief work, a lot of empowerment work together. And so I've held that as a vision for it. However, like I said, I don't have training as a facilitator. I'm just a person who loves people and loves women and wants them together.
mm,
So my vision really has just been women sitting in a circle or dancing in a circle or, you know, just gathering in a circle. I envision the range of human emotions being safe to exist, being able to speak together freely, being able to share struggles primarily. I think that's a big part of what's been missing for so long is a safe place to share our struggles as women and having ears that understand that
mm,
directly. So yeah, it's taken many forms. Sometimes we sing, sometimes we dance, sometimes we just talk, sometimes we do all of the things. Sometimes we do movement, you know, guided yoga. Sometimes we've just sat and done nothing and listened to the silence together. And I think all are necessary. And yeah, so I guess that there's the vision really is just a safe container, a
mm,
place for women to be together, and whatever form that takes in that day or in that moment is so welcome. Being able to remain open to the form changing has been a challenge, but also proved vital for me as the circles have gone on. It's been a little over a year of doing these, so at first I sort of had in my mind like, oh, we're going to greet, say our names, you know, have a topic, and then we will sing these songs and it will be so official. um, but after a while I was like, that doesn't always work. You know,
mm,
some weeks that works depending on the energy and the need. You know, maybe everybody's been very loose in their month and they need some form and some grounding, but other weeks I think we've been too structured and we need to just move and not talk and like get primal and cry and stomp our feet, you know, get
mm,
wild.
mm,
So all of the ways that it could manifest, it has manifested, and I'm open to still more that my mind hasn't opened to, you know, but just the vision of like we are gathering in this circle and whatever comes comes. That's the core of it.
mm. And it's beautiful the way you send that out in your invite too, because it is very much inviting others to bring their gifts. You know, would you like to lead? Like the
Right.
month I was there, Marina shared this movement practice, this beautiful. I'm not sure if it was 100% yoga or just a combination of yoga and movement with this beautiful music. And it was just so powerful. And the month before, when I came, I mean, you are a musician, so it helps to be friends with other musicians who bring drums, and we
Yeah.
were able to just dance, you know, and that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful I don't know if it's called ecstatic dancing or if that's a different thing, but I felt ecstatic while I was dancing. It was so fun and so freeing and so there's not that many spaces in our society where you can go and really not care how you look or
Right.
what people are thinking or what should I say if I said the wrong, like just what am I wearing the right, and
Yes.
it just
Yes.
feels like such a safe space.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of what I've experienced just in my whole life. And I think a lot of women have experienced this too, of this nasty sister wound. And that's a nice phrase for just something where it's like your relationships with women are tainted by judgment or competition or jealousy. And
Mm,
I don't want any of that in the space. However, if that comes up for someone in the space, I want it to be a container where we can process that together,
mm, mm.
and hug each other like, hey, I don't, you're beautiful, even if you're sweaty, no makeup, and your hair's gross. Like, come on in. That's a core tenet for me is being a welcoming space
Mm.
and no none of that and healing that,
Yeah.
being okay to show up how you are in that moment. I mean, I have single mama friends who show up and they've just been a wreck from trying to hold it all together. And I've had people ask me, I'm not doing okay. Can I still come? I don't want to ruin the space. And I'm like, this is for you. This,
Mm.
you need to come in then if you're not okay. This is what this is here for. I'm not
Yeah.
okay. None of
Yeah.
us are okay.
Let's be real. The world is not okay right now.
Right.
Yes.
And I definitely encourage anyone and everyone to help create that space. I
Mm.
do every time I send the email out, I'm like, I would love for people to co-facilitate with me. Yeah, I definitely have skill sets and I have things that I lend, but I don't think any one person can fully cultivate the space that we need.
Yeah.
It requires all of us to contribute and collaborate and create together. More the merrier.
Yes. Well, and so that leads me to two questions that I want to make sure for listeners, those who are local, then you say the more the
Mm,
merrier. I will put your details in the show notes, and it's okay. New women are welcome to the circle.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when are they, and where are they, and how are they? How often?
Yeah. Every month right now, we were doing on the new moon. I'm really pliable. Right now, we're kind of a little after the full moon. There's a lot of full moon gatherings and a lot of new moon gatherings. And I don't necessarily, I'm not astrologically oriented very well. So I just kind of do it. I put out surveys and see what the best day is for everybody or for the most people. And we just try to make it work. Try to do it every month. Right now, it's been around the 4th or the 7th of the month. I always send out a flyer a few weeks before so everyone can get prepared. And I'm really open to changing the day of the week around. I really just want to make it, again, fluid and so people can attend.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
So people could drop you an email to get on this list to find out if they're local,
absolutely.
if they're
Yeah.
local. And if the women who are listening are not local, but they think, gosh, I would love to start one of these. Can you
Mm,
just talk a little bit about some of the logistics? Because you happen to have
yeah.
it at this beautiful spot in River West at the Pink House, which is this
Yeah.
just sacred container of a space. But
Yeah.
how would people, or how did that part get off the ground?
Sure. Yeah, the first two I did were just at a park because
Mm,
I didn't know of any space, and I started in August. So I kind of got lucky with the weather. I did have one of the women who was interested offer her backyard and her home. So
mm,
it was really roots.
organic.
Yeah, very organic. Like, started just kind of, where can we be? Where can we exist and feel safe? The park was great, however, it wasn't private. So there's a little bit of protection that I feel is needed. Doesn't have to be walls. It could have been a private backyard, but protection definitely needed in a space where people are showing up vulnerably and raw.
Mm,
So it had been a few of these sort of publicly where someone suggested the Pink House Studio to me, and I was not very familiar with that place. I had been in there once years before, but the sisters that run it, Claire and Sarah Moore, were really open and excited about the potential. So I do ask for donations. I think $2 to $5, just if you can, to help sort of run that space while we're there.
mm.
But I would suggest anyone in their area to just start by doing it where you can. If you have 3 women that are interested, brainstorm between the 3 of you. Does anyone have a larger living room that it doesn't have to be huge. You're just
Mm.
gathering, and it really doesn't have to be anything spectacular. We lucked out with the pink house where it's already set up with blankets and yoga mats and a tea station and all these quintessential things for comfort. But I would still be all right doing it in my driveway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or on underneath a bridge, like
Yeah. Yes.
wherever we can make it happen. I just think the need is so great that if you need it and your community needs it, you got to find a way to get it done.
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
yeah.
And did you worry about, did you have that fear of, oh, what if nobody shows up? What if I send it out and nobody come? Like, was there any of that fear in getting this off the ground? Or does it matter how many people show up to call it a success? Or,
Yeah, I absolutely had that fear. And that's what's this term for it? Like imposter syndrome, right? The first
mm-hmm.
few, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't lead these women. I need these women to lead me. But again, the need was so great. And I had spoken to many moms and just women, and everyone was like, yes, please. Yes, please. So the turnout wasn't huge initially. And even in the middle, I think the one day we just had 3 of us, including myself. And when that happened initially, I definitely felt a sinking in my heart. But as the hours went on, we spent 2 hours together, and I realized this is what we need.
Mm.
All obviously the 3 of us needed to be here. We sat with our legs in a triangle, touching feet, and it was so powerful. So that's not a failure.
Mm.
If just even if just one other woman shows up, after that time when 3 women, just 3 of us came, I realized even if it was just me alone in the room, that must be what I needed in that moment. Like all the other women must have been all right at home, and I maybe just need to dance alone in this room. So again, that challenge of being open to, sort of surrendering to what the moment of the day brings and the energies or whatever, is really vital, challenging, and hard.
Yeah.
Not, I've had to completely remove my ego and my
Yes.
my identity with that, and become the container for whatever comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, has been my role in it, is again casting this loop and then holding the container. So
Yeah. Yes.
I feel grateful to have come to a place where I'm not attached to who shows up and how, what the numbers are.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
keeping track. Like who is to judge the success? That's such a weird way to think about it, and not what this is for.
Yeah.
This isn't to judge success. This is a place to heal. And healing is not really, you're not able to numerize it. What's the word?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Put it, yes, yes. Put a number on it. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
totally. That makes sense. I'm have gone through that same evolution this year as well. It isn't about numbers, it's about who shows up and who the universe puts in that room, right? And that's
Yeah.
that whoever shows up is exactly who is meant to be there. So
Yeah.
I love that you are seeing that. And I think that's a good lesson for listeners who might want to start a circle who are afraid that nobody will show up. The one thing I always
Hmm.
say too is if you're going to start something like this, talk to one person, invite one person before you send out that big email. If that one person can show up, then it's you and that person. And if nobody else shows up, and that's perfect,
Yeah.
just like you said, So,
I think also the consistency of doing it was important. For a period of time, I lived 90 miles from where I started the circle, and I was distraught at first at like, how will I keep this up? But refusing to allow that to stop me and continuing to create the container anyway, just
mm,
showing up monthly, having it monthly. People are like, okay, I know this is happening. Even if I didn't make this month, I know I can make it next month, or I'll have it in mind. So having that consistency, this container will be here every month for you. Even if someone can't come, they'll try again, they'll try again.
yes, yes. I wonder if you can just share a few of the things over the course of the year now that you've been hosting these, just a few things that you have done. You talked about dancing, we talked about some yoga. Are there any other small rituals or invitations or practices that you have tried that you've enjoyed or the women have enjoyed who've shown up?
Yeah, I loved the days when we started the circle with just a breathing exercise together.
Mm.
One that I've tried to work on this year for myself as times become more and more overwhelming is this square breath or this box breath, right? Of counting, you can start with four, breathing in, holding for four, breathing out for four, holding out for four, and you can extend it to 8 seconds. So there was a few times we did that with the drum. I had the
Mm.
drum beat and we would breathe in together and no words, just really breathing together and settling into the space together was so good.
Mm.
To not have words. And another thing I loved was just having open circle where women could share what they were going through in that moment. And if someone had some words of encouragement or reassurance or advice or a poem that related, being able to do that in real time, like that felt revolutionary. Um,
Mm.
to both settle in the present moment with each other and then to draw out current feelings. Those were
Mm.
my favorite things. I also love singing together, so there's been
Mm.
a few songs that we've returned to. I love when people bring in new songs. I love singing together, even if women think they can't sing, just snapping or humming or swaying, being in that moment is so
Mm.
great. When you sing with anybody, you literally vibrate at the same frequency and you raise your harps up. You lighten your load together.
Mm.
It's my favorite thing about being a human is
Yes.
is resonating with other humans in harmony, and you can do that through laughter too. The same thing happens. You match your heart and your brain waves when you laugh with someone. It's like a delicious energetic dance. um
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I also loved the one that I went to over the summer when you brought in, I'm not sure if you wove together some willow branches or
oh
something to
yeah,
make like a,
grapevines.
or grapevines, yeah, to make this
Yes.
beautiful wreath. And then you asked us each to bring something to add to that. So now every time
Yes.
we come to the circle, it's like, oh yes,
Yeah.
here I am. There's my piece that I added to the
Yes.
circle.
And I need to remind us to keep bringing things to add to it. I have, it was these grapevines, this wild grapevine in the backyard where I was living. And I was, redoing the garden and kind of pulling some stuff out, and they just naturally looped themselves. And
Mm.
I, while I was looping them, was like, this is the circle that I'm casting,
Yeah.
what? So I brought them in, and yeah, we brought whatever people could find, bracelets and herbs and ribbon. So we made two of them, and one of them lives at the pink house where we often have these circles. And I love it when people just bring new things in and add back to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because working with our hands together is so important too. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I said before. Women used to do our laundry together and you know, process herbs and plants and food together, make tortillas or whatever, like whatever your culture did, we would do it together. So that to me was a very physical reminder and throwback
Yes.
to what we should
Yeah.
be doing is like creating with our hands together,
Yeah. It
and a
was,
visual reminder of that hoop too,
yes. Yeah. And of being, of belonging and being a part of it. I love that.
absolutely.
So, what I'm taking away and what I hope listeners take away is that this is doable. And you
Mm-hmm.
also, you don't have to necessarily know what you're doing to start it. And
Yeah.
you can do it beautifully. You can bring that vulnerability too that you bring too that says, I don't necessarily know every time what I'm doing, although I'm just going to go ahead and say, listeners, that Nora does a brilliant and a beautiful job facilitating these circles. So I think you actually do know more than you're giving yourself credit for. But I hear that you didn't necessarily know when you started. And so it's something that people can do. Just invite a few friends over to your living room, to your backyard, to a park, and just
Hmm.
offer that space because it feels so much like that is what we're missing right now in this world is that
Absolutely.
safe space to gather.
And I also like to say, it doesn't have to just be a women's circle for you and your community. I think that this would be powerful for men to do. It'll probably look very different. There might be less hugging and crying. Or maybe there will be more. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could be anything. I've had inquiries into, can you open this space up for other people? And for me and for the women who have been interested in it, it's really been important to keep it just women. But I think it's vital to also create these spaces for, whatever kinfolk you
Yeah.
need to draw in together and circle up with.
Yeah. I'm thinking too, like, how powerful would this be for teenage girls or,
Absolutely.
yeah, an
That's
older
part of my
crowd?
inspiration. Yeah, I have nieces, and I invite them every time. They haven't been able to come yet, but I would love younger and older. Like I think I put on the flyer, women of all stages of life welcome.
Mm,
Everybody has wisdom to give and receive, so much to be learned from each other, and so much
yeah.
healing and beautiful things happen when we come together.
Absolutely. I will put a link to how you can join or come to one of Nora's circles, or I think probably should even just call them the sister mother circles, right? Because it
Yeah,
feels like they're everyone's circle when you're there.
absolutely.
And I'll also put a link to Nora's website because you are also a birth worker and an
Hmm.
herbalist. So
Yes.
you work with folks in the community outside of these circles. There are other ways you
Yeah.
could work with Nora.
Yeah.
So I will link that. And you mentioned the word poem, and I wondered if we could maybe end with that beautiful poem that you read at the last
Sure.
circle.
It is by Linda Hogan, and I got it from a book called She Rises Like the Sun: Invocations of the Goddess by contemporary American women poets.
Hmm.
This poem is called First Light. In early morning, I forget I'm in this world with crooked chiefs who make federal deals. In the first light, I remember who rewards me for living, not bosses, but singing birds and the blue sky. I know I can bathe and stretch, make jewelry and love, the witch and wise woman living inside, needing to be silenced and put at rest for work's long day. In the first light, I offer cornmeal and tobacco. I say hello to those who came before me and to birds under the eaves and budding plants. I know the old ones are here, and every morning I remember the song about how buffalo left a hole in the sky and how the grandmothers look out from those holes, watching over us from there and from there.
I
So
love that.
good.
Yes,
I do
so
too.
good. So
So
good. Oh,
good.
I get the chills. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your offerings for women in our community and for this conversation that I hope might spark some circles wherever, wherever you are, listeners, listening to this in your neck of the woods, in your community, because it can be done. And it's,
Mhm.
I don't want to say easy, but simple, or it's simple but not easy. I forget which way that
Yeah.
goes, but I understand it takes work and it takes dedication and it takes consistency and it takes bravery and courage,
Hmm.
but it can be done. So
Definitely simple. And it is my deepest duty and utmost delight.
thank you, Nora.
Thanks for having me, Megan.
Listeners, if you are following me over from Cream City Dreams, I can imagine you're thinking, what the heck? This sounds just like one of the incredible women on that podcast. And indeed, yes, I am so excited to share what Nora is doing with the Milwaukee community because it is incredible, because she saw a need, she had a need, and she filled it. Not necessarily knowing exactly what she was doing, but just knowing that it needed to be done. She did it. And my hope is that it inspires people beyond Milwaukee because these kinds of circles should happen everywhere. Nora is speaking my jam. I love bringing women together. But like we talked about at the end, it doesn't have to be just women. It could be men. It could be a mixed group. It could be kids. It could be elders. Whatever and wherever you find yourself needing a safe space, there are sure to be other people who need that space as well and who would join you. I feel like much in the same way I gathered a handful of lessons that were consistent themes across all of my guests in Cream City Dreams as the women on that show were building up their own dreams. I'm hearing some consistent themes already with just the first couple guests I've had for this new iteration of the podcast, Gather, Connect, Create. And one of them is that if you build it, people will come. People will show up. And similar to Cream City Dreams, as I've said in many a newsletter and many a podcast, start small. Start with a handful of people. Start with one or two. Let go of that expectation of huge numbers equating to a successful gathering or a successful connection, and see who the universe puts in front of you. If you are tired of waiting around for somebody to create the thing that you need, then maybe you need to be that person. And if you do, I would love to hear about it. Drop me an email, send me a text. Both of those can be found in the show notes of how to do that. I would love to hear about what you are doing in your community. How are you gathering? How are you connecting? What are you doing to create those safe spaces and containers for your people? Because we need those if we are going to survive these crazy times that we are in. If you're local, I will also put Nora's details in the show notes. And if you are not on my newsletter yet, please subscribe. I'm not on Substack as a writer. I do it through my newsletter and on the website. So that is the best way to stay in touch, to allow me to let you know when events are happening, when classes are being offered, when circles are happening locally if you are here in Milwaukee. But if you're not, I hope you'll take these little nuggets of inspiration from our Milwaukee guests anyway and put them to good use in your community with your people. All right, I will be back next week with another episode of Gather, Connect, Create. Remember, this is a practice, and we are not aiming for perfection. We are just aiming to get better at it. Footnote to this episode, if you're still with me, thank you. I have to say, I tried my best to get this out before Nora's next circle, but alas, couldn't quite make that happen. And actually, as this comes out this week, her circle was just last Sunday. I went, there were 5 of us. It was incredible. What happens in the circle stays in the circle, so I can't give too many details, but let's just say there may have been yoga, there may have been Missy Elliott, and that may have been at the same time. That would be a first for me anyway. It was just what my soul needed. If you enjoyed this episode and you live in or around Milwaukee, I would encourage you to get on Nora's mailing list so that you can be in the know for her January circle. You won't be sorry. And speaking of yoga, I have been asking my newsletter folks, if I offered some gatherings to bring us together in real life, would you join me? And over 50 people have replied and said yes. So I have a separate mailing list for locals who want to gather. And our first event is next Monday, December 15th. So if you're hearing this in real time, you're still in time to get a ticket to a yoga class taught by former Cream City Dreams podcast guest Caitlin Hensey, who is now a yoga teacher over at Moving Galaxy on the east side. It's her 12 o'clock noon Monday class next week, December 15th, and quite a few of us are signed up, so come join us. If that fits your schedule, we would love to have you. There'll be time for circling up, gathering, drinking tea, eating cookies, and connecting after the yoga class, and we'd love to have you. I will put a link in the show notes for tickets for that. Even if you can't make this one, drop me an email with your email address or text, and I will add you to the list of gatherers, because hopefully 2026 will bring many more of these kinds of events. All right, friends, thanks for listening.